and I was able to believe that I can actually attain it. You know, from there, you know, sky was the limit. I just didn't. I was like, you know, like a dog in the bone. I said, you know,
get it high, live it high.
Right.
I live it high, get it. Hey, beautiful people and success mentor Dante J. Worth, and I'm back with another video right here on Audacious Believer TV. Woo! Now, if this is your first time tuning in, I need you to make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure that you like this video. And make sure that you're commenting down below. Me and my team absolutely love to read your comments. Now, tonight, we're being joined, I say followed. We're being joined by the wonderful, the fabulous, the one, the only. Tell them who you are, sir.
Dr. Leonard Brock.
Woo! Now, we invited Dr. Brock here tonight to talk about being fueled by the energy of your work. Now, before we talk about that, we're going to ask you the question we ask every single guest. What is your story?
You know what? I'm Rochester native, you know, born and raised. Section 7. You know, grew up in a single family household.
Yeah.
Not only from the neighborhood of it, you know, I aspired, you know, to get out of poverty. And at one point, I didn't necessarily have a roadmap. So, you know, led to some poor decisions. But ultimately, there was enough grace afforded me, you know, to make some course corrections. And, you know, public school educated, went off to higher education, worked, and now I have a terminal degree, you know, trying to make... That's awesome. What else? You know, honestly, you know, I worked up the ranks.
Nice.
So literally, I've never left Rochester. You know, literally grew up in public housing.
Wow.
William Warfield. Actually, I'm a Hanover baby. I was actually born in Hanover housing projects. You know, 7 months when they knocked those down in William Warfield. So I spent actually 23 years of my 37 years on earth living in public housing. So my first undergraduate and graduate degree, I was still living in the projects. I wanted to own a home, purchase a home. I was a teenage parent. I actually had my son when I was 19. He's actually getting ready to go off to college.
Congratulations!
So I have a 17-year-old who's getting ready to go off to college. You know, so it's a reminder, you know, that time waits for no one.
Nobody. You're only like 27, aren't you? That is awesome. So I know that you do a lot of work with the Rochester Monroe. Say the title, please. I can't get it right.
Monroe Anti-Poverty Initiative. It's a mouthful.
Yes, it is. It's a tongue twister. Yes, it is.
I'm happy for sure.
So, for you, how do you define poverty?
I define poverty as a number of different things. One, it could be a mindset. Two, just individuals needing more access to opportunity.
Oh, that's good.
You know,
that's good.
needing money, needing access to the bag.
Bring me that money.
You know, and then we you know, there's been a significant number of efforts to reduce poverty, but we're trying to do something different by bringing different voices around the table.
Yes.
You know, having a different conversation and shifting the narrative away from people don't want it. That's the reason why they don't have it. You know, people have been locked out of the process of getting it, and that's why a lot of people don't have it. So, you know, just trying to do the work. You know, growing up in poverty, you know, I'm empathetic to not only the work and the cause, but I feel it's my purpose.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So how are you so fueled by this energy to do this work?
You know what? It comes from that lived experience. It comes from, you know, the times of watching my mom struggle. It comes from, you know, being really sick and tired of being poor. You know, that hunger and that desire and that grit to say, you know what, I'm tired of living like this and I want to create change. So it started from my own lived experience saying, you know what, I want to improve the conditions for my mother and for my family. And then when I realized I wasn't unique, that there were so many of us in the neighborhood who had similar stories and had, you know, we didn't have means. So I wanted to do whatever I could do to just better the conditions for everyone in the neighborhood. And that led to wanting to do what I can do to help better the conditions for everyone in the community. And at this point, I'm trying to take this show on the road, man. I'm trying to help everybody.
That's awesome. So for someone who's out there who doesn't understand someone else's journey, a lot of times there's cultural difference of the haves and the have-nots.
Right.
How can we shift that culture? Have a cultural shift of the have-nots in our country?
Right. So I think it's a number of cultural shifts. I think 3 primary things in terms of shifting that narrative of being able to conditions for people who are the haves and the have-nots. One, just because a person don't have what you have doesn't mean you have to give up something for them to get it. Zero-sum game. There's enough out here for everybody, and really getting people away from the notion that they have to be greedy in order to maintain what they have. Second is being able to understand that the people who have not, some of that is structural and systemic. They don't have not because they choose not.
Right.
They have not because there are some systemic barriers that prevent them from having access to opportunity, like I said, for being able to secure their bag. Yes. The third thing, to be honest, between the haves and the have-nots is that they're really not different. Some people are just fortunate to start, miles down the road before another person even understand they're at the finish line. They're at the starting line. So I think a lot of it is just shifting perspective that, we're more alike than we are different. And then once we start to really understand that and look for the similarities and the ways that we can support one another, it'd be less of a divide. But unfortunately, people just don't think like that.
A lot of times we don't want to understand anyone else.
Right.
What is there something that we can do individually to try to understand others?
Right. One is, really try to understand ourselves. I think a lot of it comes, from a lack of security and a lack of self-concept and awareness. I think the more we're comfortable being who we are, considering the uniqueness or just the broad perspective that we bring to the world, I think the more we can be comfortable with that, be comfortable in our own skin, we allow others to be comfortable. Even when we're confronted with individuals who may be different or individuals may have different views and opinions and ideologies, that doesn't necessarily equate into, like I said, a zero-sum game or, quid pro quo. It's just, we can benefit one another by just doing the good work of strengthening one another.
That's good. Being fueled now about your experience and things that you've lived through.
Right.
Why in those moments when you were down in poverty, living in the projects, why didn't you give up?
One, I didn't have a choice. I didn't look at failure as an option. And I just had this crazy imagination. I had these visions. And I was able to see it before I could realize it and actualize it. So for me, once I had the vision in my mind that there was life outside the projects, life outside of poverty, and I was able to believe that I can actually attain it, from there, sky was the limit. I just didn't. I was like, like a dog in the bone. I said,
get it high, live it high.
Right.
I live it high, get it. For someone out there who's like watching and they're saying, okay, I work so many hours, I'm in the constant cycle of just trying to survive rather than thrive.
Right.
How can I get out of this constant wheel, this constant turning of wanting to do better but not knowing what to do?
Right. I say the grind is essential, right? The grind is essential, but also have a belief and have the wherewithal that you want more. So a lot of times we get stuck in the rut where we feel like, no matter what we do, we can't have more. The minute we subscribe to that mentality and that notion, then it becomes reality for us.
That's good.
So we really have to so no matter how hard it may be, no matter how much you're grinding, you have to believe that, there is better, there is more. And if you keep working at it and you keep believing that you can actually have those things, it will manifest in time. Don't ever subscribe to the fact that you can't have more, you can't have better.
Yes, unsubscribe and resubscribe. Hit subscribe right now. So are you ready for rapid fire questions?
Oh yeah, give them some.
Favorite book?
Powernomics by Paul Anderson.
Ooh, that sounds good. That sounds real good. I gotta look that up. Favorite movie?
Paid in Full.
Ooh, okay. And by the time you leave this world, what is one change that you hope to see in the world?
I want to be able to create opportunities for everyone who's aspiring to better themselves in their lives and in the generations to come. So I want to be a philanthropic leader that's unconventional, non-traditional, doing things that are not defined by no one outside of the scope of my own imagination.
Yes, like Millie rocking at the press conference. It's like, and to finish the sentence, to be audacious means to be
bold, courageous, to be implicit, It's everything you want to define and describe it as that brings out the fullness of you.
So tell everyone how they can find you online, how they can support you.
Yeah, they can find me online, you know, Doc Leonard Brock on Facebook. I can, you know, Leonard Brock on Twitter. The information as relates to the Anti-Poverty Initiative, endingpovertynow.org. We actually have a new website, so endingpovertynow.org. You can find information about the initiative, and I'm out here, you know, I'm out here.
I just want to say disclaimer, because they're going to say, Dante, you all in the camera, you ain't got this man in the camera. This man is big, y'all. He got his one arm is in the camera. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. So until next time, remember that life is meant to be enjoyed and not just endured.